Welcome back, everyone. So I want to talk to you today kind of about your project overview and, of course, your first report, which will have everybody up in a uproar and worried about. It's not a big deal. You've already done this. If you've taken my project management course, you'll know exactly what to do step by step. And I'm sure if you've had anybody else's course, you're going to understand if you follow Schweibel's guides exactly how to do this. The biggest thing is making sure that you guys are comfortable, number one, with what you're going to do and making sure your journey is going to be fun for everyone. So let's talk about some of the things in the project as an overview perspective. What will the team do? Well, one, we got to think about the steps to success, and we've already built it this way. Dr. Gerard and I have kind of planned this out for you. The first, second, and third parts are really the system's life cycle and the process components. They're cumulative in your grades, yes, but more importantly, they don't have a final overall. They're weighted equally so that one doesn't destroy your whole grade or anything else. But it's paramount that you think about each element individually and that they're building off of each other. So your final project is a success. You can always go back in the end and make sure these components are complete and use our feedbacks and my feedback and your peers' feedback about how you can improve these reports. You're going to do this in the real world every day. Every team that you work on and every job that you go through and every journey you're on, you will continuously rebuild these same reports. This is a real world experience. Part one is really the systems analysis. The information systems analysis is what we do. It's kind of trying to create a solution. You guys got into this because you love the idea of puzzle solving almost. Everyone that I know likes doing the games or the puzzles, finding the end. So we have to think about this. We have to actually analyze first the requirements from what our stakeholders are telling us is necessary to have as an output. We think about the end first. And that's one of the most important components of our IT field is we think about the end mission. We think of the end first, and then we think about the best solution to get there. Yes, we are technology focused, but more importantly in this class, we're giving you a breath of something that's more important. We're asking you to think about a social impact aspect. You have to be able to say that your project is giving back to your community. This is important for organizations today because it's one of the key elements for them to get grants if they're federally funded or state funded. And it's also a way that problems are solved in organizations. They go to the community, they go to their stakeholders, and they ask for help. So when organizations are already part of a community, it's easier for them to solve their own problems or get help. Everyone has a mentor. Organizations have other organizations that are mentors and partners. This social aspect will help you think about that. It helps you motivate your career. Because what's more important when you're in an interview? I can do code, I can do Linux, I can do Python. You sound like a robot. But when you talk to somebody on the idea of, hey, during my senior year, I created this incredible capstone that helped animals find homes, that helped shut-ins get volunteer help. The Meals on Wheels program brought food to people that I worked with. This is an incredible aspect. So yes, we look at the project overall in the end at 60%. Is it successful? You got to have success to pass. We look at the social impact and we looked at the team impact. So these are all parts of that grade. So I want you to consistently think about this as you guys are working and building your charter and your first report. The first part is always brainstorming. Think about this. We did not create the wheel. We are not going to create the wheel, but we can modify the wheel. How do we use this? When we're looking at the social component, I want you to look at Global Social Video that Dr. Gerard provided and think about how these impacts can help each other. How do you turn your idea into an impact? I'm going to talk to you about two cases today that other teams did for me that really changed an environment, a community, and helped somebody. And that environment is spiraling more, and you might be able to build on their progress. Think big, something that turns into impact. You might not be able to think right now, but at the end of this video, you'll be saying, wow, you know what? I didn't think of that, but now I can apply this. I know this person needs help. I know this can help somebody. We have this built into the rubrics and the assessment. We want you to see this as a success model that you can bring into interviews to help you get a job, that you can bring into your current employers. We want you to think with the end in mind. You have to get through this journey. And it is a journey together. And this is the first essence of you really working with a team to solve a solution, to make an impact, and be on a journey together. And you're going to have bumps. You're going to have to describe very clearly in your charter aspects of how you will handle these bumps. I will be looking for this. I want a bullet point of if this happens, if this happens, if this happens. How do you deal with conflict negotiation? What are the stages? Who are the leadership? How will you follow through? The answer, by the way, is not call Dr. Spangler and say, we can't get along. That right there is going to help you get 10% off your grade. I can guarantee you if I hear those words. I want to hear, in your charter, we said this. This is how we're going to handle it. This is what we will do. So you need to be very clear. If someone has an emergency, how are you going to handle it? It needs to be detailed in your charter. Who's going to pick up the workload? Who's going to help? Who's your mentors? You should have a list of mentors and people you can all go to. I'll talk about a SWOT analysis that will help you in these ideas as well. We have to think with the end in mind. Everybody's on this journey equally together. If you have one person feeling that pulls the whole team down and the project down, you all fail. Everyone goes down with the ship here. I know that's pretty dramatic, but it's true. It's the same in the real world. If you're given a government contract or a state contract and they say, we need this project done, our stakeholders want this at this date, you do not come in a day late, an hour late. You come in a week early, because when you come in a week to 2 weeks early and you've fulfilled all the requirements and it's the best of your abilities, and you already know that it's really good to the stakeholders because along the way you've communicated every aspect with them at every milestone, you're looking for success. This is how you do that. Another thing that I saw in the past is everybody thinks that this is a simple type it up report. It is not. Citations are paramount in these reports and the stages. Every time you say a word, and I'm going to repeat this through the semester because you guys will forget and hold me at an aspect of where you don't think I'm going to catch you. You need to be able to cite who said this. If you're talking about information project management solution, you should be saying that inside Schweibel's Information Technology Project Management 6th edition, Deming's 14 stages were utilized. Inside these stages, Deming points out 14 points. Boing, 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 all 14. We are going to utilize this. Plan. Cite the page, cite the book, cite the exact area of where you're talking about, and go through the stages and use that to help you build your report if you like that. We're going to use Six Sigma, and we're going to use it from Jack Welch's book. We're going to use it from here. We're going to go to our Information Security Management book by Raggard, and we're going to cite how he uses the CIA model as an inferior process and uses the STAR models, or something else, or Stamp's Information Security book that talks about the Bible of how to do this. We need to cite these things. You are not allowed, hear me clearly, you are not allowed to make a statement that says, data is blah, blah, blah. No, you need to cite clearly. According to Dr. Spangler, data is. And then you can say data. Every single term needs to be defined in these reports. Be proactive. I cannot preach this enough. I'm a big scholar of Dr. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I studied under him. I knew him well. I met him many of times over the years and his family. He was a very interesting man, and number one thing that he always told people, the greatest thing that you have to think about is, number one, thinking with the end in mind, having your mission statement clear, your charter. But most importantly, once you get started, be proactive. And even before you start, you should all be being proactive. You have to think about starting early with team meetings and keeping them going continuously. Each week you should be meeting. You should be updating your milestone. You should be updating your NAT charts constantly, telling everybody where you're at. This is why I preach so hard. This first report is such a paramount piece to you. You have to develop a very clear, concrete team charter, and everyone should sign off accepting all the terms. Accept all the terms. Define all the requirements for each member, and their role should be defined. Define the milestone markers and how you're going to measure your progress and success there. And you should be putting these into your report. How are you going to measure? Are you going to use Hubbard's Anything Can Be Measured model from his books? What are you using to measure these and how? We need to understand this in your charter. The organizational structure. How are you doing this? What's going to be your leadership model? What is your concrete leadership chain of command? How are you going to create the communication channel so there's a continuous live flow? This should be an aspect you think of right away. How are your meetings conducted if you're online or virtual? Will you be using Skype, GoToMeetings? When are they going to happen? This all needs to be defined so that everybody knows they have to be there and be part of that action. Talk about a doable scope for the team. Too often I've seen groups come in with their first report and their scope is so large that a team of 50 people couldn't accomplish the goal in a year, let alone 16 weeks. Remember, we only have a total of 16 weeks, but even less for the project, because the first week we're just learning about each other. The last week, everything's already turned in. So you're narrowed down to about 14 weeks to accomplish all of this goal. So think manageable. Here's an idea. One with a social impact that's easily adopted and done, and has been done in the past. Work with an animal shelter. Creating a database was one team's goal and what they did for all the animals that are currently housed so that they can assess how long they've been there and help the people design needs that they wanted. The stakeholders wanted to know, one, when an animal came in, how long the animal was there, and they were able to charter progress. They had simple data in there such as the age of the dog, health, shots, whether or not the adoption was a success, comments from the adoption couple or individual. It created a social impact because they were able to see where and how they could influence and what time over a course of a year when their biggest adoption rates happened. So they were able to actually go out and advertise and push more to help more in weak areas and times. It created a social impact for animals in the animal shelters. One of my groups did a really cool project with the Houston County Community Meals on Wheels program, which they're still continuing today as a social entrepreneurial group. They created a website that was there was a website already there, but they did a user task analysis and saw all the failures on it. And they saw that they were not getting donations in for the Meals on Wheels program, and people weren't able to take advantage because they couldn't afford it. So the first thing they did is assess the idea and analyze why they were not getting funds brought in from the actual website. And they found there was really no easy way in an e-commerce style to donate to the actual Houston County Meals on Wheels. So they knew this was something they had to put in their mission. And they had to put in their scope to be able to build a system that was secure so anyone anywhere could donate money to them. They also understood that the website that they had, the current model, people couldn't read it. So what we did was did a user task analysis on age group of people that are actually using it. We went out to senior centers and we talked to senior citizens about using the website and getting through and finding information out about how they can get involved, how they can volunteer their time, and how they can donate, or how they can receive a meal. And one of the first things we found was they couldn't see the text. It was too small. The color was inappropriate and hard for them to read. The text style alone was very difficult to read. So we started analysis of this area to fix the first problem and create a solution to where, one, individuals who are actual users of this site could utilize the site. Then the final component was adding the e-commerce. Later, now the group is working with them to create a marketing campaign. They're also helping to expand the website, putting more information in. They're also doing logos. We also went into ideas later, since their charter was done because they were so excited early, about color connotations and getting the stakeholders to change so things are more friendly and cool. Instead of red colors that are warnings and anger sensitive, we change them to cool greens and blues. So this is something you'll think about. In the report one, we're really developing this life cycle. The most important part right off the bat is a team charter, the adoption and the sign by every member of how you will act, your responsibilities, your work schedule, the NAT chart. I want to see measurable outcomes and milestones to do this. You're going to identify, of course, your organization and social impacts. You want to look at the history of this corporation, organization, or system. You want to be able to say clearly what their mission is and what the stakeholders are looking for. You want to know about their history, if there is a website or whatever you're working with to build or a database, what the problems are associated according to stakeholders now. You want to define clearly how the project gives back to the community. You want to define clearly your mission statement and the solution statement of what you believe in. And you should be thinking about multiple solutions and options at this point and possibly doing quick tests. How will you design this proposal? Well, again, go back to your textbook. You've already learned and you have great models for this. Look at Schweibel's Information Technology Project Management. Think about Krug's simple models for doing this. How many of you have done this? There's a great book by him called It's Not Rocket Scientist, or Don't Make Me Think is another great book, one of the ones I love. They're on my shelves at all times. They're simplistic measures on how to put this all together. Schweibel's is really the Bible for this IT program. Go back to it. I hope you didn't sell it or get rid of your notes. Go into your Human Computer Information Technology course. Grab Pierce's book. That defines almost every definition you will need. It defines how to do a lot of things such as user task analysis. It defines users' behavioral aspects, environmental behaviors. It talks about social behaviors. You will need to include this all in your first report and cite every single place clearly. Inside your charter, you'll see that I've developed the idea of a SWOT analysis. Many of you have not done this. This is something you will do continuously throughout your life, and it will help you. It will help you in your portfolio because you'll include it there, help you here for your team. It will help you in your final report because I require them. A SWOT analysis, first, it's an identification of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Each category you want to go through. You want to say what your strengths are. My strength is I'm an excellent coder and I can do Python well. I understand Linux. My weakness is I don't communicate well. Opportunities then could be I need to go and find a mentor, or I need to take a communication class, or I need to be a leader in this group and force myself, or I need to find a mentor who can talk easily and communicate effectively and work with them. A threat might be I have to work 9-to-5 job. I have 3 children that I'm working with because I'm an adult learner. I have to find a way to meet my team's requirements. I have to talk to my family. So you want to create ways to make those threats into opportunities by saying, you know what, I'm going to talk to a friend of mine. I'm going to talk to my family. I'm going to get a mentor to help me work with coding because I'm really weak on it. Maybe the mentor becomes inside your team. Or you go back to your favorite professor that's really worked well with you and help them with your weakness. That's something that you're going to assess and tell me during this journey at the end how you've moved weaknesses and threats into opportunities and strengths. I will see this in your reports. I expect it from everyone, and your team will too. But more importantly, when you honestly share this information with your team, they can say, oh, you know what? Scott doesn't really know this. That's his weakness. And you know what? Public speaking is a threat to him. So we don't want him doing right away any of the presentations. We want Tony to go out, or Amy to go over and say to the stakeholders, here's what we need, here's the way I have to do it, because she's very comfortable with talking with people or knows them well. This is what a SWOT analysis really does for you. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Don't fear them. This is a clear way for you to see an honest way especially in your portfolio, to understand what you need to do to re-educate yourself and to continuously educate yourself to make yourself a better employee and create opportunities in life for yourself. I want you guys really thinking about too in that charter how you will communicate, not only with yourselves, with me, but also with the stakeholders. You should be weekly updating all of your stakeholders. You should be defining clearly what is the end state. You should be talking about in the charter, is the scope doable? I've had people that are so far out there in their scope that I couldn't convince them to scope it down, and they failed within the first report. They had to stop and reorganize and restart over an entire new project because they failed to listen to me, and they failed to listen to each other. So be honest. We can't handle this. I have 5 classes I have to work with. I have to graduate in December. Think about all these things. Talk to each other about things that are happening in your lives. If you know you're going to have a knee surgery and not be able to work or walk or get to campus or drive, don't tell your teammates that you're going to be able to meet stakeholder meetings that are a 30-mile drive away. Be honest. Above all, think about this. This is not a theory. This is an actual prototype that you need to have finished and working by the end of the class. So think of that scope in this model. We have to have it working. We have to have it working. I know that sounds daunting, but you can do this. I have had a 100% success rate so far. And as I said, I had teams fail and start complete new projects over halfway through the course and still be able to communicate it effectively, measure it, and create a working prototype and one that launched before the end of class. I expect everyone to be able to do this because I know you're a success and can do this. And remember, go back to your text. Schweibel's book is a huge reference for you guys. Look at it. Think about it. Use technology. Use Excel to create your WBSs. Look at the cost analysis. This is going to be something you have to project. Don't tell a client that it's not going to cost anything. Don't tell a client something false. You'll have to look up the data and put it in there. When you're working on this idea and you're thinking about prototypes, you want to first think about not just satisfying something. You want to be able to have a prototype that has a tested solution to the ideas that will work. Make sure in this first part you're doing a complete fact-finding mission. Understand the history, understand the needs of the company, understand their mission statement, understand each other. Conduct user task analysis right now in the current state if there's a website, if you're working with that, or with the data, or with the process management. Tell us what's the problems now. Use actual users to do this. You will need to work quickly over these first 3 weeks to accomplish a lot of this material. You'll have to understand the history and the vision. These are all things the stakeholders want you to understand. So before you go to a meeting, know who the organization is. Know what they care about, what their mission is, who their leaders are. Think about this. Communicate your plan clearly to stakeholders. What you can do, what you will do. The team contract should be shared with them. You should state whatever requirements are needed by the stakeholder. You should experiment and use UTA exams and share them with the stakeholders so they understand that you know what you're talking about and doing. If you detail these issues for the presentations for the stakeholders, they'll have a lot more respect for you. Never go into a meeting empty-handed. Come with your guns loaded. Understand that if you look sharp, you are sharp, and you have information to provide for them, they are going to respect you. And finally, let's talk one more time about scope. Do not overextend yourself. And most importantly, don't allow it to creep. Everybody's experienced creep. This is a possibility that is daunting, and you have to combat it. That's why I'm saying you need to place clearly in your charters the scope so that at any point you can go back and say, no, we defined this clearly, we all signed off that our scope is this. Watch that marshmallow video challenge if you've never seen it. It's on the TED Talks. I'll try to put a link in here for you as well. It really shows how team dynamics can fail on a project without clear communication and thought process and having a mission defined at first and scope defined at first before you start. Think about the team lessons that can be learned from watching the Marshmallow Challenge. Try it yourself with your peers if you're online. In class, we'll do one together. Think about the innovation, the communication, the design. When you're starting this journey, think proactively and strong. Meet often. Look for mentors. Share your SWOT analysis right away. This should be done within the first week, first couple days. And of all things that I want you to do and think about the most, if you have a weakness or threat, think about how you can change them by getting a mentor, someone you already respect and know. Maybe it's as simple as learning more project management and leadership skills. Come to me. We'll talk about my library. We'll talk about other innovations. If I don't know how to do it, I go to find somebody else. I go online. I learn. I ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Learn how to take those weaknesses and threats and move them into opportunities for success for you and make them a strength. I want to see this accomplished by the end of the semester for you as well. This is going to be a great adventure, guys, and a journey. I know it seems really daunting, but once we have this first report done and rolling, everybody's going to be moving well. I will get you some notes. We'll talk them out, but you have to communicate effectively with each other and understand this is a journey, and we're all going to come out on the end of success because you're already a success. I've had a 100% success rate, and I plan on continuing that. Look forward to everybody in class. I hope to meet everybody online personally. And more importantly, I can't wait to see you at graduation. Well, we'll talk to each other soon. Have a great day, everyone.